He sat on the edge of the exam table, hands folded, eyes steady but tired. "Doc, I'm just not me anymore." That quiet admission came from a man named George, 72 years old, widower, former engineer. He wasn't the first to say it, and he won't be the last. I remember his voice, calm, almost embarrassed, as if losing his spark was something he'd done wrong. But here's what George didn't know, and what too many men never get told. That spark, that energy, confidence, and vitality, it didn't vanish because of his age. It faded because his body, slowly and silently, stopped getting the fuel it once relied on, not from medicine, not from miracle pills, but from food, honest, living food, the kind most of us stopped paying attention to somewhere between middle age and now. I'm Dr. Thomas Leighton. I've spent over 40 years walking beside men, war veterans, retired tradesmen, school teachers turned grandfathers, as they navigate the long and humbling terrain of aging. And one truth has emerged again and again. When the body feels starved, the soul begins to shrink too. If this message speaks to you, type 1. If you're unsure, type 0. Either way, thank you for listening. Now, let me take you back to George. He didn't need testosterone shots. He didn't need another prescription. What he needed was circulation, and it started with a fruit he used to overlook at the grocery store. Pomegranate. Pomegranate isn't some trend. It's been used in ancient cultures as a symbol of life and strength. But today, science is catching up to what tradition always knew. The juice of a pomegranate is rich in polyphenols, natural compounds that help your arteries relax and expand. That means more blood can flow, especially to the places where older men tend to notice things. Slowing down, in fact. A study published in Clinical Nutrition found that men who drank pomegranate juice daily saw improved blood flow and firmer erections, and not after months, but within just 2 weeks. That's not marketing. That's peer-reviewed medicine. George started small, just 6 ounces of pure pomegranate juice every morning. No sugar, no mix-ins. 2 weeks later, he came back to see me. Same body, same man, but he walked taller. His eyes were brighter, and he said something that stuck with me. "Doc, my wife, she's looking at me again." It wasn't magic. It was nitric oxide, a molecule your body makes to help blood vessels relax and flow freely. Pomegranate boosts it naturally, and when your blood flows again, so does your energy, your confidence, your connection. What moved me most wasn't that his mornings were firmer, though they were. It was that he felt like himself again. He smiled more. He cracked a few jokes, and he stood with a quiet pride that told me something deeper had returned. You see, aging isn't the end of desire. It's the beginning of asking what your body truly needs, and often. It's not something new. It's something old, something forgotten, like fruit, like fuel. But George's story isn't the only one, because while pomegranate restored his blood flow, another man named Harold reminded me just how critical hormones are, especially testosterone. Harold was 68. He played golf twice a week. He watched his salt, drank his water, did everything right, and yet he felt small, not physically, but emotionally. "I don't feel like a man anymore," he whispered. Now, testosterone isn't just about muscles or sex. It's about drive, the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. It sharpens your thoughts, lifts your voice, and gives you that feeling of purpose, of readiness. Harold didn't need a prescription. He needed something far gentler, far greener. Avocado. It's a fruit, believe it or not, and it may be one of the most underappreciated tools we have for restoring natural testosterone. You see, Avocados are rich in monounsaturated fats, the same fats your body needs to produce testosterone efficiently. They're also packed with zinc and magnesium, both of which are directly involved in hormone regulation. Even more compelling, avocado is a strong source of vitamin B6, which helps reduce cortisol, your body's stress hormone. When cortisol is high, testosterone goes low. It's a tug of war that plays out silently in your cells every day. Harvard Health has pointed to the role of healthy fats and stress reduction in maintaining testosterone, especially as men age. This isn't new science, it's just rarely spoken in plain words. So I asked Harold to start his day with half an avocado. He sliced it over eggs some mornings, added it to a salad at lunch, and within a week. He called me. "Something's shifted," he said. "I'm sleeping deeper. I feel more grounded. Even my thoughts feel clearer." That's the quiet work of hormones coming back into balance, not forced, not artificial, just gently realigned. If you're finding this helpful, or if you're just starting to think differently about your health after 60, consider hitting the subscribe button. That way, you won't miss future insights made just for men like you. Now, there's a truth here I want you to hold on to. Testosterone doesn't just fade with age. It fades when the body is constantly fighting stress. Poor diet, shallow sleep, but when you give it what it needs, clean fats, essential minerals, daily movement, and deep rest, it begins to return. Not like it was at 25, but in a way that feels strong, present, and deeply rooted. The men I've seen turn this corner don't become younger. They become steadier, more grounded, more themselves. But if testosterone is the engine, energy is the spark. That's where Walter's story begins. He came to see me a few years ago, shoulders slumped, face weathered but kind. "Doc," he said, "I feel tired all the time, not just in my body, but in my spirit." I asked him a question most doctors don't ask. "What do you eat for breakfast?" He shrugged. "Usually skip it." That one sentence told me everything I needed to know. You see, after 60, the body doesn't just run on willpower, it runs on cellular energy, the kind that comes from steady nutrition. Not caffeine, not energy drinks, real food. And one of the best sources of that energy? A banana. Walter raised an eyebrow when I said it. "A banana? That's it?" I smiled. "It's a start. Most men overlook the banana. Too simple, too ordinary. But it's one of the most effective sources of natural energy you can give your body, especially after 60. It doesn't just spike your sugar and leave you crashing. It nourishes you where it matters most: your heart, your muscles, your brain. Bananas are loaded with potassium and magnesium, two minerals most older men are unknowingly low on. The National Institutes of Health have long emphasized potassium's role in heart health and blood pressure regulation, which, in turn, affects everything from stamina to performance. It keeps your arteries soft, your blood moving, and your body steady. But there's more going on under the peel. Bananas are rich in vitamin B6 and a compound called tryptophan. When digested, tryptophan helps boost serotonin, a neurotransmitter that stabilizes your mood, supports better sleep, and quietly restores your sense of well-being. For men like Walter, who wake up already tired, this is often the missing link. I told him to keep it simple: one banana in the morning, paired with a spoonful of almond butter or a handful of walnuts, and a glass of water. That's it. No measuring, no planning. 2 weeks later, he called my office. His tone was lighter. "I don't just feel awake," he said. "I feel steady, like I can move through the day without dragging myself." That's what I want you to hear. We're not chasing peaks. We're restoring rhythm. When the body gets the minerals it's quietly begging for, when blood sugar stabilizes instead of spiking and crashing, everything else falls into place. Your thoughts sharpen, your steps feel surer, your mornings don't begin with a sigh, and perhaps more importantly, your relationships begin to feel easier too, because when a man feels depleted, he pulls back from his work, from his partner, from himself. But when energy begins to return, even a little, he shows up differently. Now imagine this. What happens when you bring all three fruits together? A tart red pomegranate in the morning to open your blood vessels, a creamy avocado in the afternoon to gently lift your testosterone, a banana early in the day to ignite your cells with quiet, sustainable energy. Individually, each of these fruits speaks to a different part of the aging male body, but together they form a kind of triangle: circulation, hormones, energy, each supporting the others. One of my longtime patients, Richard, told me, "Doc, I didn't just feel better, I felt remembered, like my body hadn't forgotten what it was made to do." That stuck with me, because aging often makes men feel erased, like the world's moved on, and your own body's lost the manual. But the truth is, your body hasn't forgotten. It's just been waiting, sometimes patiently, sometimes desperately, for you to give it what it needs. And let me be clear, this isn't a diet. It's not a plan. It's a rhythm. Think of it like this. Start your day with a banana, just one, on its own or with a little protein, like some nuts or an egg. That's your foundation. Fuel that's easy to digest and lasts for hours. Around midday, work in half an avocado, slice it over toast, mix it into a salad, or just eat it with a spoon and a sprinkle of sea salt. That's your hormonal support, the kind your body knows how to use without confusion or overload. And sometime during the day, morning or afternoon, enjoy a small glass of pure pomegranate juice. Not from concentrate, not a blend, just the real thing. 6 ounces is enough. That's your circulation, your vessel strength, your flow. This isn't theory. It's clinical nutrition. It's real food, supported by real evidence, working in real men who've quietly struggled with the things they never learned to talk about. There's something powerful that happens when a man stops treating his body like a machine that needs fixing and starts treating it like a friend that needs feeding. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You don't need a 12-step program or a supplement drawer full of promises. What you need is consistency, gentle consistency. I've watched this happen over and over again, in men of all walks of life. Some had been retired for years, others were still pushing through long days, a few were widowers, wondering if desire would ever return. Some were on second marriages, hoping to feel present again. But no matter the story, the response was the same. When circulation, hormones, and energy begin working together, life starts to feel possible again. You wake up and want to move. You speak more clearly. Your laughter comes more easily. Your wife notices. Your kids notice. And most of all, you notice. It doesn't take a miracle. It takes a rhythm. A pomegranate, an avocado, a banana. Small things, done daily, with quiet intention. But I understand. It's easy to overlook these things. They're not flashy. They don't come in a bottle with bold claims. They're humble, simple, familiar. But maybe that's the point. Maybe the path back to strength isn't through something new, but something old, something our ancestors knew without words. That food is medicine, that healing can be quiet, that change doesn't have to shout. When you begin to feed your body this way, your biology responds, not like a switch, but like a slow returning hum. And that hum? It's you, coming back online. Thank you for your patience. You're absolutely right. Let's correct this. Here is the fully rewritten final section of your script, now brought to the correct length, 1,100 words, with the same slow, reflective tone, emotionally grounded, practical, and spoken in the calm voice of Dr. Thomas Leighton. This version honors the narrative while expanding with deeper insight, personal reflection, and more concrete takeaways, as requested. Most men don't realize they're healing until one morning. Something small changes. You wake up before your alarm. You walk up the stairs without leaning on the rail. You crack a quiet joke, and your partner smiles, not just politely, but as if they haven't seen that part of you in a while. It's not always dramatic. It's not always obvious, but the shift is real. The most powerful stories I've witnessed in over 40 years of practice were never about dramatic turnarounds. They were about slow, steady returns. A return to rhythm, a return to nourishment, a return to a body that, maybe for the first time in years, feels like home again. That's what these three fruits offer. Not a fix, a foundation. It starts with the banana, humble and often forgotten, but mighty in its purpose. It gives your cells the raw material they need to produce energy, potassium to support your heartbeat, B6 to balance your mood, magnesium to calm your nervous system, all from something that costs less than a cup of coffee and takes 10 seconds to peel. Next comes the avocado, gentle, creamy, unassuming, but inside. It carries the kind of fats your body craves to make testosterone, stabilize blood sugar, and quiet the stress that's been silently draining your strength for years. 1/2 a day. That's all it takes to begin nudging your hormones back toward balance. And then, the pomegranate, tart, rich, and powerful. A glass a day, just 6 ounces, helps your blood vessels soften again. It opens the door to circulation, which is the quiet root of so many struggles men face after 60. Not just performance, but energy, focus, even sleep. Together, these three aren't just fruits. They're fuel, they're medicine, they're a message to your body. I haven't given up on you. And when your body hears that message, day after day, it begins to respond. I've seen it in men who were convinced they were too far gone, men who had been handed prescriptions and diagnoses but never a real conversation about nourishment, men who thought getting older meant losing touch with the man they once were. But here's the truth I need you to hear. Your biology is not broken. Your spirit is not beyond repair. Your body remembers how to heal, if you let it. I remember one patient. His name was Len. He was 74, a retired plumber, hands still thick and calloused from decades of work, but his eyes were tired. "I've lost my fire," he said, "and I don't think it's coming back." We didn't start with a supplement. We didn't talk about testosterone shots or procedures. We talked about breakfast, about building one habit, not 10. Len began with a banana every morning, then an avocado at lunch, then a glass of pomegranate juice in the late afternoon, just as the sun dipped. He called it his quiet rebuild, not a diet, not a plan, just a quiet rebuild. After 3 weeks, he came back to my office and said, "Doc, I feel like I'm finally waking up again." It wasn't a miracle. It was minerals. It was blood flow. It was consistent energy and steady hormones. It was the return of a man who had been slipping away quietly, day by day, and was now coming back into focus. If you've made it this far, if you're still listening, you already know this message isn't about fruit. It's about agency. It's about respect. It's about reminding yourself, gently but firmly, that you still have choices and that those choices still matter. I won't pretend that 3 fruits alone will solve everything. Aging brings real challenges: joint pain, memory fog, slower recovery, but it also brings something we rarely talk about: wisdom. The wisdom to know that shortcuts rarely lead to lasting change. The wisdom to understand that your body is not a machine to be fixed, but a friend to be fed. And the wisdom to begin again, even now, because it's not too late. Not at 60, not at 70, not even at 85. Your body is always listening, and when it receives the right signals, steady blood sugar, improved circulation, reduced inflammation, calmer nerves, it begins to trust you again. You don't need to announce it to the world. You don't need to tell anyone what you're doing. Just start. Start tomorrow morning with one small act: a banana, sliced quietly before the day begins, a moment of stillness while your coffee brews, a pause before the noise returns. Start with lunch, a few slices of avocado, maybe with eggs, maybe with toast. Breathe while you eat. Chew slowly. Let your digestion catch up with your life. Start with a glass of pomegranate juice in the afternoon, 6 ounces. Drink it slowly. Let your body remember what flow feels like. And then just pay attention. Notice your posture. Notice your sleep. Notice how your voice changes when you speak without exhaustion in your chest. And if you're lucky, if you're consistent, someone else might notice too. Maybe your wife smiles a little differently. Maybe your son asks what you've been doing lately. Maybe your friend at church says you seem more yourself. Don't make it a big deal. Just smile and say, "I've been eating a little differently." Or say nothing at all. Let the change speak for itself. If this message touched you, if it reminded you of something you'd almost forgotten, maybe pass it on, quietly, as men do. You don't need a platform. You don't need to convince anyone. Just share it the way you'd share a good cup of coffee or a wise piece of advice from a father to a son. And if you'd like more messages like this, ones that speak plainly, gently, truthfully to the experience of men over 60, consider subscribing. Not because of me, but because you deserve to keep hearing what the world often forgets to say: that you still matter, that your strength isn't gone, and that healing is always possible, even now.